Marine science is important for a lot of reasons. The first that comes to mind for me is that the ocean makes up the majority of the ecosystems on our planet. So we really need to understand it and care about it if we're going to have a true understanding of life on our planet. And the research that we do and the findings that we get from it can impact all aspects of terrestrial life, humans, but also our plants and our water.
So we are trying to see whether pollution, plastics, and other nutrients in the water column will affect the diversity that we can find there, specifically the fish diversity and any sort of invertebrate that moves and that is caught in our nets. If there is a big difference from like where the pollution is most concentrated and it affects the amount of diversity that we're seeing, but that can contribute to addressing management issues and provide more justification for why we want to try and reduce the amount of pollution that we're seeing in these locations.
We're hoping to quantify how much plastic pollution we're seeing in these water samples. Since we're taking samples along transects both close to the farm and farther away into a more pristine area, we want to see if there is deposition of plastics coming from this farm, and if so, are they spreading out into the broader environment in a way that we can actually quantify and track. Any sort of mass scale production is probably using quite a bit of plastic, and there aren't really regulations at the moment on how to limit that from getting into the environment, which can have implications for all aspects of marine life. Plastics can float on top of the surface, and then fish and other sort of surface organisms like phytoplankton can interact with them. They can also sink down into the sediment, and then burrowers like skates or worms or oysters can interact with them in that capacity. People really care about oysters in this area because there's a lot of oyster aquaculture, and oysters are filter feeders. So tiny particles in the water are what they're trying to eat anyway. There's a very real risk that oysters are accumulating plastics, so they're a subject of high concern, and there are lots of people looking into that.
I grew up on the Chesapeake Bay where at the time it was condemned, and I had read one article in 5th grade that one oyster could filter up to 50 gallons of water a day, and so in my 5th grade mind I went, more oysters equals cleaner water and I could swim in the bay, and here I am today. Water touches all of us. Water is life.
Water affects our climate, our food security. So much of the world depends on seafood as an important source in their diets. And all of our lovely, beautiful fishes, invertebrates, all the tiny, tiny little things. There's so much biodiversity in the ocean that I can't imagine what the world would be like if we didn't have access to the ocean.
Knowing the fate of our water, what we do to our land-based water and how that's going to impact our ocean-based water, which is going to cycle back and influence our land-based water again. It's really important to understand and do something about to make it better.